1989, and what a year to be alive. If you weren't alive, you missed things, news things, but don't worry, as I'm more likely to die before you, and you may live long enough to have a robot butler. So, yes, the Berlin Wall fell. Well, I say fell, it was pushed, with hammers. Look! The first liver transplant happened, which was good news for people with certain medical conditions and those people in the pub who get served before you and know all the bar staff's full names. Roxette released The Look, and as this is 29 years old, I would imagine singer Marie is probably a na 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 na. She's a nan now. Yes, that was the joke. Fun joke. Sorry. Finally, Batman starring Michael Keaton was released, and he saves Gotham without being able to turn his neck. Look at this! Tim Burton's gothic vision worked well for the Caped Crusader, and it started a wave of increasingly awful 90s superhero movies. Thanks, Tim. You're indirectly responsible for Steel, starring Shaquille O'Neal and Judd Nelson. You sod. 1989 and games, though. Whoa! The Megadrive finally had more than 4 titles, and some were bloomin' excellent, as we'll find out soon. The PC Engine also hit its stride, arcades were still the hot tamale, the 8-bit and 16-bit computers were pumping out some incredible titles still, and the NES and Master System were just over their peak, not to mention that the Lynx and Game Boy were launched, so going outside was finally interesting. Yeah, screw you, healthy activity in nature. Yes, I'm talking about you grass, you photosynthesizing twat. It's going to be hard to pick 10 this year, so I could do more, but that would mean more work, and I'm basically a human slug of laziness, so no. Rules are the same as the other episodes, unless the game is radically different on a different format. It only qualifies if this was its original year of release. I may have played it at the time, or on St Swithin's Day 1997, or on the day my mum's dog died 3 years ago. Very sad occasion, didn't play any games, probably shouldn't be making a joke about it. But the key part here is that it must have come out in 89 and that it's better than Natalie Portman's Face. If it qualifies under those regimes, then it is in my list. Any of these titles currently showing up on the screen could have made the 10 on a different day. Sadly, this is not to be their day. I think it may have been the best year for gaming we've covered yet. Ocean Software really struck pay dirt the previous year with their adaptation of Robert the Shiny Cop. So they were understandably very keen to get themselves some more of that lucrative movie license moolah. Yum yum. There was no bigger movie release in 1989 than Tim Burton's Batman, starring Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. And so it came to pass that the Ocean execs did indeed get the cartoon dollar signs in their eyes, and they did indeed release The Dark Knight across all the relevant 8-bit and 16-bit computers. I've gone for the Amiga version here, as it has the most interesting vehicle-based levels. Whereas the 8-bit versions had side-scrolling Batmobile and Batwing missions, the 16-bit versions went for an Outrun style affair. Well, not quite as good as Outrun, a bit rubbishy, but so much better than those 8-bit ones. The book-ending side-scrolling levels on all versions definitely owe a huge debt to Robocop, albeit with vertically scrolling platforming thanks to Batman being more flexible than the tin can Detroit lawman. Apart from his neck, of course. Let's not forget that neck. Also included is a puzzle game where dear old Bruce investigates the Joker's Smilex formula, which is a thing from the movie, if you remember that. There's been a lot of Batman since. It's all Dark Knight this or Martha's My Mum 2 these days with you kids. A real smorgasbord of styles, Batman the movie by Ocean was an ambitious game. The game does a pretty decent job of following the plotline of the movie too, very much unlike our next entry. Batman again? What the bulwarks is this? Another error up there with thinking Bionic Commando was made by Konami and not Capcom. I made that mistake. Oops. But make no mistake here, Sunsoft put out two very different spins from Ocean on the movie event of the year for the Nintendo systems. The NES version of Batman is the pick of the crop, even though he's wearing purple like the Phantom from Defenders of the Earth. Defenders! Outside of the cutscenes, some locations and the presence of Batman and the Joker, NES Batman completely ignores the movie. Sunsoft maybe read the one paragraph Warner Bros put out as an elevator pitch and then just said, "Oh, that'll do, we'll just make a game. Let's make this game and fill it with robots and stuff. I'm sure that's what it'll be like." But you know what, it's fine. It's a classic with an excellent Sunsoft soundtrack and a suitably gothic atmosphere. It's definitely influenced in the gameplay mechanics by Ninja Gaiden, but without the difficulty level that puts the fear into abused game controllers. Movie licenses, eh? They were a thing once. DuckTales a woohoo. Whether you like solving mysteries or rewriting histories, DuckTales a woohoo is a very fine example of what the NES did best, side-scrolling platform games with character. Scrooge McDuck pogos about on this surprisingly springy walking cane with gay abandon across a wide variety of environments as he attempts to increase his fortune by travelling around the world and space by finding 5 secret treasures. Why can't he just wait for the government to give him tax breaks like any smart capitalist? I don't know. You're getting old, McDuck. You've got friends at Duckburg City Hall that can do all the running for you. Just let them do it. Regardless of this, Capcom did great work on a variety of Disney TV and movie projects in the mid-80s to early 90s, and they were experts at this type of genre. Looking at you, Mega Man. DuckTales was peak Disney Capcom at its very best. Fabulous music, that music, jeez Louise, that came out of a NES, amazing. Solid visuals and fantastic game design combined for a well-remembered title, and rightly so. You can't have one of my top 10 lists without a Sega arcade title, and here's 1989's. Sega gave the popular scrolling beat-em-up genre a Conan and Red Sonja makeover that featured crunching sound effects, spectacular visuals, and fantastical locales like this eagle's back. Is this eagle just straight up bald down the middle? Did the tortoise with the village on its back sneak up behind it with some building-sized clippers and perform a mean-spirited jackass-style stunt? I need answers. Adding sword slashing and screen clearing magic to the Double Dragon style genre works incredibly well. The AI can be a bit off at times, with the enemies being easily duped into just, walking off ledges, but overall it's an incredible, iconic game. And who doesn't love those chicken dragons from Altered Beast, unlike the rest of Altered Beast, which is bullshit. Plus, you're encouraged to kick midgets in the face. Now, if you're an incredibly horrible sadist like me, this is your dream game. Please don't kick midgets in the face. They're people too. Every time I watch a news broadcast, I'm always stunned that none of the journalists dress like April O'Neil. Not once have I seen Trevor McDonald with a ginger lady 80s shag hairdo with his titanic D-cup breasts battling to be the first one of the two to escape the zipper of an incredibly tight-fitting yellow jumpsuit. This was the real damaging effect of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Not potential injury to children from nunchucks, which along with side daggers were removed from most advertising for the myriad tie-in products of the time, but false expectations of weirdly dressed sexualised journalists. And April is here. And once again in a shed ton of trouble as the Turtles slash, bash and hack their way through multiple hundreds of fancifully coloured foot soldier goons in order to rescue her from the sinister Shredder. I'm a sucker for a licence, as you can probably tell if you've watched any of my videos before, and none got me more excited than seeing this 4-player Konami bad boy on a ferry to Boulogne when I was 11. This was a spectacle. Myself and 3 school friends did not want the short ride to end. The criticism I levelled at Sunsoft's Batman simply isn't true here. The game unquestionably respects and understands the TV show's appeal. All the major enemies of the first series of the show make an appearance. The graphics are incredible, like a particularly low dialogue episode of the show viewed from an odd experimental perspective, maybe by a foreign director or something. The music was unmistakably Konami, with an upbeat, exciting charm that saw it picked as my countdown music. Did you notice? It's been in the last few videos. Capcom were undoubtedly the kings of the arcade scrolling beat 'em up, but Konami were fantastic too. It maybe is that it can get a little bit repetitive, but it captures the feel of the property so perfectly as an homage to a much loved animated series and a fun little 4-player fighter. This is vintage Konami at their swaggering best. I love it. I've done a whole video on this already. It was my first one too. Do we all remember as long ago as this year? Yeah, we all remember 2018, don't we? Sometimes it feels like only yesterday. And today. And tomorrow. And boy, is this joke not going to hit if you're watching it after 2018. So, watch that after you've seen this, as it's packed full of deets about the WWF Superstars arcade game. This video here is me just vaguely waving at it with an opinion stick. Fresh off the success of Double Dragon and its sequel, Techno's Japan won the license to put the stars of the hugely popular World Wrestling Federation into arcades. Not literally, Hacksaw Jim Duggan is not hiding behind that cabinet. I was a huge wrestling mark at the time, and this was to be the first WWF wrestling game that I ever played. Boy did it spiral downhill from here. Give or take the odd SmackDown 2, WrestleFest or No Mercy. It's a title that has aged much better than its stablemate Double Dragon in my opinion. I still like Double Dragon, mind. The controls are incredibly responsive, with context-sensitive moves that are simple to pull off. The graphics are sharp and convey the in-ring cartoonish countenance of their real-life grappling counterparts perfectly. And boy, do those sound effects crunch for 2 people not hitting each other. With this and the Turtles game, my childhood self never had more of a desire to extort 20p coins out of my poor old mum. But mum, it's that thing I love off the telly. An early, underappreciated and underbought Megadrive title that would prove to be highly influential. Herzog's Zwei is a sequel to little-known title Herzog, a game that probably none of us have ever played. This game puts you in command of a Macross-style armoured aircraft mech suit that carries armies of units purchased by the player across the battlefield. The aim of the game is to capture as many of the enemy's bases as possible. Man, does this sound familiar? And boy, it should, because while this isn't the first ever real-time strategy title, it is often cited by the makers of games such as Dune 2, Warcraft, Command & Conquer, StarCraft, Cannon Fodder, and many others as a major influence on the genre, and indeed the production of those games. Indeed, its core gameplay is seen as a predecessor to the MOBA genre. Think of that. Without this title here, we may never have seen things like World of Warcraft, StarCraft or League of Legends. Beyond its role in influencing some of the most lucrative properties in the history of video games, Herzog's Zwei itself stands up on its own as an excellent, albeit simplified by today's standards, action strategy game. It really does not get the credit it deserves. You should play it. Yeah, so I'm not very cool, as you can probably tell. Be it from my cadence, my love of terrible things, or the fact I have a retro games channel that has under 50 subscribers. However, I can identify cool and admire it longingly from my dorky swamp in the world of fail. Strider Hero and the title he debuted in are very cool, however. In 1989, Strider may have been the coolest game yet released. Strider, the athletic ninja assassin, somersaults and clings to every surface in this sumptuously beautiful futuristic Soviet Union. Gravity gets messed up, giant bosses are encountered, including a giant Terminator gorilla in an ice cave. Steel mountainsides are sprinted down as a string of explosions go off behind. There's always something happening, and it's always different, and it's always exciting. It's like a Naughty Dog Uncharted title, but in the era of 16-bit games machines. And it got a very near flawless conversion to the Megadrive at the end of the year too, that made you think we could well get arcade quality games at home soon. And we sort of did, but we didn't, so it lied. But it's okay, because it's really, really cool. Mike Hagar. A brilliant street fighter, apparently a really good wrestler, but what he also is a terrible, lousy, rubbish mayor. Why? Because crime is so rife in Metro City that every single street between him and his daughter's kidnapping villain Belga is full of mad gear street criminals. Every single one. The only public transport link in Metro City is a train that breaks down within 2 minutes of him boarding it. Even the police have taken the side of the bad guys. Ultimately, the buck for this crime wave has to stop at the feet of you, Mike Hagar. But Mike Hagar, Cody and Guy are our friends here on this adventure. Because aside from being a shitty mayor, Final Fight is without a doubt the baton taker from Double Dragon in terms of scrolling beat 'em up excellence. Huge sprites, different selectable characters with vastly differing attributes, a fair but tough difficulty curve, crunching combat and a slew of memorable and sometimes iconic player characters and villains combined to make the previously known Street Fighter 89 a bona fide classic of the genre. Better games would follow in this type, but Final Fight would be the standard bearer for a long time yet. Revenge of Shinobi is the nuts. The earliest versions of Sega's sequel have you shuriken and slash your way through various cultural touchstones such as Terminators, Rambo, Godzilla, and of course Spider-Man who turns into Batman because, F copyright law right in its ear apparently. Western versions would of course have all this content removed, give or take the odd Rambo. However, Revenge of Shinobi is more than a busy yet ultimately straightforward afternoon for a business lawyer. It is the first indicator that the 16-bit era of gaming had truly arrived in the home. Yes, the Amiga and the ST were several years old at this point, and of course, there are some brilliant titles on those systems, but this was 3 buttons in use. It was the masters of the arcade, Sega, showing off their creativity and quintessential Japanese game design swagger. It was Those amazing graphics, it was the uncompromising challenge, that brilliant stage design, and of course, that gobsmacking, awesome soundtrack by the greatest composer of the 16-bit era, Yozo Koshiro. As good as any early title on any system in history, it's titles like this and Strider in 1989 that showed that the SEGA Megadrive could well be a contender to the unstoppable Nintendo juggernaut. Without doubt, Revenge of Shinobi is my favourite video game of 1989. And that's it for the list for the time being. The 80s are at an end and the 90s await. But they're going to wait for a bit longer because I want to go back to doing some more Spectrum stuff. So, see you soon!